Hi, sixth graders. We are on the place value lesson, still in our decimals unit. Label your page with place value and rounding. So add place value and rounding to the top of your page. Our learning target is being able to identify place value of decimal numbers and being able to round decimal numbers to any given place value. Here is the place value chart that hopefully I remembered to give you during class today, but if I did not, then I will give it to you tomorrow. If you do not have it, you don't need to copy it down. You can get it from me in class. But otherwise, the copy that I gave you, make sure that it is inside your notebook. So I want you to look at where the decimal point is, which is red and if we look at the decimal point, we can see that the place values to the left of the decimal ends in just an S. So we have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and millions. So if I write 3 million, write a comma there, 489,721 and 3/10. Or if I write a 2 here, 3,489,721 and 32 hundredths. Or if I write a 5, it would be and 325 thousandths. Or let's add a 1 and 3,251 10,000ths. So notice that whatever digit, wherever it ends, that is the name that we say. So if I have 2 and 37 hundredths, I would say 2 and 37 hundredths. We don't want to say 2.37. We always want to say how many whole numbers there are. To the left is how many wholes. To the right is how many parts. What part of the next whole number is there? So 15 and 721 thousandths, because it ends in the thousands place. All right, when we round numbers, it gives us an estimate or an about answer. We're kind of going to the closest, whatever place value it's telling us to go to, but we're going to a close value. So the steps are, we want to identify the underlined digit, and then we look to the right of the place we're rounding to. If to the right it's 5 or more, then we raise the score or we go up. If it's 4 or less, we let it rest, so we just stay the same. We don't do anything. And then we change all the digits to the right of the underlined number into zeros. So round the following number to the ones place. So we find the ones place. I'm going to underline it. Then I look to the number at the number to the right of the place we're rounding to. So I look at my 9. It's above 5, so that tells me that since it's above 5, it tells me that this 2 has to go up. So I'm going to make that a 3, and then everything to the right turns into zeros. So all these 3 digits are zeros. Any zeros after a decimal with nothing after it can just go away, because 3 is the same as 3 and 0 tenths or 0 hundredths or 0 thousandths. So this is just going to equal 3. If we're rounding this one to the nearest ones place, so we would read this as 12 thousandths because the 2 ends in the thousands place. We look at the 0, which is in the ones place. We go to the number to the right, which is also 0. 0 is less than 4, so we keep this number the same, which is just 0. So rounding to the nearest ones place is just going to be 0. Round the following numbers to the tenths place. So my tenths place is the first digit after my decimal to the right. I look at my 0. So first of all, I know everything before the number that I'm rounding is going to stay the same. So there's a 32 and a decimal. That's for sure going to stay there. I look to the right, which is a 1. The 1 is less than 4. So I go back to the number I'm rounding to, and I'm going to keep it the same. And then everything else turns to zeros. Because there's nothing after any of these zeros, meaning there's no numbers after these zeros, after the decimal, then this is just going to be a 32. 10 and 376 thousandths. So my tenths place is a 3. I go to the right, which is a 7. A 7 is greater than 5, so I go back, and this tells me it's going to be a 4. The 10 stays the same because it's right before the 4. Everything else after turns to 0. There's nothing after these zeros, so I can drop them. So nearest tens place is going to be 10 and 4 tenths. All right, I want you to pause me and try to do these 4 and then come back and check. So it says round the following numbers to the hundredths place. Hundredths is my 2 right here. The way I would read this number would be 259 10,000ths because the 9 ends in the 10,000ths place. So 2 is in the hundredths. I go to my 5, which is 5 or more. So I go back to my 2 and it tells me to go up. So remember, everything in front stays the same. This changes to a 3. Everything after changes to zeros. These zeros can go away. These zeros need to stay because it tells me that I have 0 holes, and this 0 needs to take the place of the tenths because really this is 3 hundredths, not 3 tenths, 3 hundredths. 5 and 123 thousandths. So I look at my 2 because that's in the hundredths place. Then I look at the 3. The 3 tells me that the 2 stays the same. Keep the 5 and the decimal and the 1. Keep the 2 the same. 3 turns to 0. I don't need that, so it's 5 and 12 hundredths. Round the following number to the thousandths place. So 14 and 782 10,000ths. So my thousandths is in the 8. That means this is 14 decimal 07. The 2 tells me that I keep the 8 the same. So 14 and 78 thousandths. All right, and then we have 3 and 2,799 10,000ths. This is a tricky one, so we'll see if you figured it out. So the 9 is in the thousandths place. I go to the 9, and it tells me that I'm going to raise this up. And I can raise this up, but to raise it up, it's a 10, and I can't have 10 in a place. So that means I need to take part of that 10 and add that, or take all of that 10, and add that to my next number. So that's going to, so the 3 and the 2 are going to stay the same. The 7 is going to turn to an 8, and then everything will be a 0. So 3 and 28 hundredths is going to be my answer. Okay, I want to do one more before we move on. So if I have 1,378 and 3 tenths, and I say round to the nearest hundreds place. Hundreds is this 3 right here. Not back over here after the decimal. Hundreds is right here. So I do the same exact thing. I start with my 3. I go to the number after, which is a 7. The 7 tells me that it has to go up. So keep the 1. That goes up to a 4. These turn to zeros. The numbers after the decimal, the 0 after the decimal, I can drop, but I have to keep these numbers before the decimal. I have to keep these zeros in order to keep it 1,400. If I drop it, it would be 14, and that wouldn't make sense. So the zeros before the decimal always stays. The zeros after the decimal, if there's nothing after it, can go. All right, and that is all I have for you. So make sure you have your notes in your backpack in class tomorrow. Rewatch the video if you have any more questions. Have a good night.